Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities Behind Black Business. And we have two special guests here with us tonight. Arthur Ward with the Freedmen Chicago group here, addressing reparations. And then we have Adeline Morrison, a young lady who I met at the reparations forum that the African Descent Citizens Reparations Commission forum. And Adeline has some very pertinent points to make. And she has some very interesting perspectives regarding reparations. And so I want to thank both of you for coming tonight. Thank you very much. As you know, we are a nonprofit foundation, and we came together to address issues in our community. And we feel that one way to help our community and strengthen our community is by supporting Black businesses. As we support Black businesses, they are more likely to give back to the community in so many different ways. And in doing so, that helps that dollar to circulate in the community. So that's why it's important that we support Black businesses. And we do have a lot of Black businesses here in Chicago. And we are also great proponents of our Black bookstores because that's where our knowledge is. As we know, much of the information is being changed. Some information is being taken out of some of our very important literature. We've got this book banning going on. And so it's very important that we support our Black bookstores. And we do have a number of Black bookstores here in Chicago. And if you go to our website at rrgbc.org, we have them listed there. And I think there are a couple of more that have opened up. Some are online, some are brick and mortar, but that's where we need to be getting our books from our Black bookstores. And I also encourage you authors out there, please put your books in our bookstores. All right. And we go a little step further. In supporting our Black bookstores, we feature a Black bookstore every month. So this month, we're still featuring the Underground Bookstore, which is located at 1757 East 87th Street. Brother Yoel is the proprietor there. I believe they are our oldest Black bookstore right now. And we're supporting the Underground. And then we choose a book, or we let the merchant choose a book, and we give that book away. All you have to do is subscribe to rrgbc.org, and you can become a winner of that book. We pay for the book and the shipping. All we ask is that you read the book, share the information, and share the book. Many of you have book clubs out there. This would be a good time or a good place to do that. The book for this month is Lovable Racist, Magical Negroes, White Messiah by David Ickert. Very interesting read. It focuses on how racism and oppression in this country is diminished, or, they try to make it something not so important, or to say certain things didn't happen really like they did. But this book is addressing that. So you can become the winner of that book by subscribing to rrgbc.org. And then lastly, we want you to support our Black banks, the Southside Community Federal Credit Union, located at 55th and Whitworth. They have been there for over 20 years, serving the community, providing different types of loans and financial literacy classes to the community. Every Saturday, they have a financial literacy forum. And so we need to know about how to manage our money, and many of us need help with our money. And so, in order for a bank to thrive, they need you to open up an account. So, we need to be putting our account money, our dollars, into places that are going to give back to us. Okay, so let's get started regarding our discussion today. As I stated earlier, there was a forum that the state of Illinois sponsored, African Descent Citizens Reparations Commission. So it looks like now we have reparations at the suburban level, which is what they did in Evanston. We've got reparations at the city level. We have aldermen that are, and other people that are working on reparations. And now we have reparations at the state level. What do you guys think about that? Having it at all those different levels.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Well, at this point, Denise, I think I talked. This is silly. These reparations commissions, these local reparations commissions are silly. They don't produce anything, and the only thing that they do is that they enable the Democrats to show that they're doing quote unquote something in regards to reparations. At the same time, though, this is not to say that local reparations or state level reparations should not be addressed, but we're doing it kind of like out of order. That's why I always say that the federal needs to be done first, and embedded in the federal in the reparations policy that would be produced at the federal level, there would be guidelines, uh, policies, and the backing of the United States government behind you when you go after states, localities, businesses, universities, and so forth. This way, this local reparations mess, they control the narrative, and you don't. If you're serious about extracting anything from these these entities, that's not. This is not the way to do it. All of this is just smoke and grandstanding and nonsense. That's how I look at it.
Okay, what about you, Adeline? I think you had a very profound statement to make about that at the meeting.
Oh, yes. Well, when I was at the meeting and I made my comment, I did comment on the fact that it was called the African descent. And that gives me a pause because it makes me wonder if they're doing that on purpose because they know it will be stopped at the Supreme Court. So, if you look into what the Supreme Court was saying, they're saying they're not against repair. They're not against affirmative action, despite what the media is saying, or even against reparations per se. It's just that when you say that you're trying to repair a group of people, you need to be specific to that group of people. And while the word black may have just meant uh, those who are the descendant of freedmen, which is a legal term used to describe people who are the descendants of American chattel slavery, um, it's no longer it's no longer applicable now because there are different groups of black people here in this country.
Mhm.
So they have to be specific. And I have a very hard time believing that they didn't know that.
Mhm.
With all the grandstanding that they were kind of doing at the meeting, all the degrees, they definitely let you know that they had, some of these people had more degrees than a Russian protractor, and yet they didn't know that.
Mhm.
So either you're just incompetent and shouldn't be leading anything, or you're deliberately sabotaging it. And I'm more inclined to believe the latter because there is this group called In Cobra there, and
Hmm.
I've heard nothing but bad things about them. Um,
Hmm.
and the woman who went to represent them was wearing a red jumpsuit or something like that and a tiara on her head. I I
Hmm.
I I don't even understand what to say about that. I mean, except for she dressed exactly the way I expected them to look for in Cobra. It was just very strange to see that. I felt it was a tad bit disrespectful what she had on, because it's like this is a serious event with serious people, and you're wearing a tiara on your head as if you're like the queen or something like that. And I even ran into one of the former members of In Cobra in the ladies' room after the event, and she said she left because there was a lot of um basically tomfoolery that was going on, including funny money by strange sources. Um, I've even heard that they're getting paid completely by white people. Nothing wrong with white people, but it's like that means obviously they're going to be controlling your group, and we know that most white people are probably not okay with reparations for slavery, especially if it's just going to go to any and everybody.
Well, if you think about it, if you look at the civil rights movement, this is where a lot of what was put on the table for us had to begin, because these local municipalities were not going along with what they said Black people should be getting, as far as being able to sit in the bus, being able to go to the schools, going into the restaurants, buying homes, getting jobs. The local municipalities were not with it. And it had to be enforced at the government federal level. And Arthur she mentioned about the who reparations should be for. And it sounds
Well, that,
like you're indicating that it should be more
yeah, I mean,
lineage based.
Yeah.
right. Well, no, it's like, okay, come on now. One of the ways in which black people get messed over is that, it's real simple for everybody else. When it comes to Jewish Holocaust victims, it is right off the bat, it's exclusively for those particular Jews and their descendants that went through the Holocaust, not all Jews. When it came to reparations for the Japanese people that were interned in the United States, it is only for those Japanese people, those Japanese American citizens that and their descendants that were interned in those camps. No other Japanese people that live in the United States. But when it comes to us, everything has to be spread across this smorgasbord of minorities, and now it has to be all black because reparations is for racism. First of all, reparations is not for racism. Reparations could never stop racism.
Yes.
Reparations is there because it's the atonement for the results of racism being laid upon us. But it cannot stop racism no more than Jewish Holocaust reparations can stop anti-Semitism. That's not what it's for. It is directly for the economic extraction that was taken from us over several centuries, with this trajectory starting in slavery. For those people that are descended from the people that were enslaved in the United States. It's real simple.
Hmm.
That's one thing. Then, as far as like what reparations should consist of, primarily is primarily monetary, and in addition to the primary monetary component, all things that are adjacent to money,
Hmm.
because we were brought over here for economic and business reasons.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's,
Because
it's real it's real simple.
I know when you look at the concept of 40 acres and a mule, and Black people were
Yeah,
supposed to get all of this land. Actually, Black people did get land, and they were working and tilling their land. And then
right.
when Abraham Lincoln got killed, they went
Yeah.
and took it back because they
What?
were they felt like wealth white people felt like wealth was being taken from them, and to keep
Well,
the
see,
union together, they gave it back to them.
okay. Well, let's make some clarity about the 40 acres and a mule. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
40, 40 acres and a mule was not really reparations.
No,
Okay, this is
no.
the situation. This is the situation. General Sherman was responsible for a particular section of the United States after the war. He had all of these ex-slaves out there that were basically starving. Okay, and he was responsible for these people. So giving them land grants of 40 acres plus a mule to help them to work it was really just a matter of helping them to sustain themselves. If you really notice, the 40 acres and a mule was not extended to all ex-slaves. It was just for those slaves in the Sea Islands in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
And in actuality, 40 acres is not really enough to gain any, to develop wealth. It is enough to sustain yourself and maybe make a little extra so that you can maybe sell that on the open market. But notice the first Homestead Act, which was also enacted in 1865, they gave the white folks 160 acres. That is the minimal amount of land that you need to develop wealth beyond just sustenance. And if you look in the special order, if you look at the special order 15, there is not one word in there that says reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Well, I was not comparing it to
Yeah,
reparations, but I'm looking at when you talk about wealth, and the reason that they did that. They saw their
yeah,
wealth going and they stopped it,
yeah,
and so that was the point. But I appreciate you expounding on that. We need some
yeah.
more knowledge of our history to understand what's really going on right now. And I know, Adeline, when I was talking to you, you had a lot to say about civics. And as we go forward to try to address reparations, even trying to get things done in your own community, we have a lack of knowledge when it comes to that. They don't teach um, applicable civics in the schools. You become familiar with some terms, but what is your alderman there for you? What is he there to
Yes.
do for you? What is your congressman and your state rep? What are they there to do for you? How do you engage with them? If you have a problem, who do you go to? And how do you engage with that person? And so you were talking a lot about physics, and I would like for you to expound a little on that, to talk about how important that is in this whole reparations movement, to know more about civics.
Sure. Well, I can say this. I'm just beginning my foray into politics, and I realized I didn't know enough about politics to really truly make an impact. So I decided to read a couple of books that to help me learn more about the American government. And there were two books that I had read. It's called American Government 101 by Kathleen Sears. And then there was another one called The User's Guide to Democracy. And I believe it's by the people that have this podcast called Civics 101. One of the people's name is Hannah, and another one's named Nicholas. And these books are good primers, but I decided to go a little deeper because it's important to know how your state works because it basically says that all politics is local. And basically what I kind of feel when it comes to Black people is that we don't do anything because we don't know enough. And so when you don't know anything about what you can do, you basically just kind of give up. And so it doesn't occur to most Black people to probably read books on these types of subjects. Um, and it doesn't occur to them to like try to find free civic classes and stuff like that. So it's like, I think it's pretty important for us to kind of know the basic ins and outs of American, of your, at least your state. And so, like, a lot of the power in the states, I mean, well, in the political parties is the committee man, right? So a committee man is somebody who, for the most part, kind of like works on behalf of the party to kind of get the vote out, and they slate candidates, and they can also you know they can even kind of go around the neighborhood and kind of introduce themselves and do things for the neighborhood. And I think a lot of Black people really don't know about the committee man, which is a very powerful position. um and so I think we're told by the media to just vote and protest and vote. And when people pretty much figure out that voting and protesting don't do anything because they don't know basic civics, they basically kind of like realize that it's not helping them, and so they just basically stop participating. And so I think it just really kind of comes down to just teaching people civics. I'm actually learning civics with the Southside Republicans right now. And there's a man named Devin Jones, and he actually teaches us civics every Tuesday. And he has committee men who come in there to learn and everything like that. Because if you don't know how your government works, you don't know how to use it as a tool to change systems and reallocate resources. And so we don't know about the money board where, the federal money, because there's like certain boards that you need to be on. There's like the board where the money comes from the federal government, and then that board will then dole out the money to various other boards like the housing board and the jobs board. You want to know why we have more vacant lots than the state of Mississippi? Well, it's because there's somebody on the jobs board or the zoning board or whatever like that, and they don't care, right? There's a lot of greed that's going on. And we don't know that the alderman sits on that board, right? And so we don't know to basically get on those committees, and we can slate them off, right? So that means that basically if somebody who wants to run on the party ticket doesn't adhere to the party rules, you can basically say no, the party platform. You could basically slate them off. They'll be forced to run as an independent, and then they're gonna lose because they don't have the D or the R behind their name, right? And so that's something basic that we can basically do. And the powers that be don't tell the common Black person this because they don't want us to help shape and mold policy. Right. That is why they're not telling us that. That is why they're only telling you to vote and protest. That comes at the beginning and at the end. But notice they don't tell you what to do in between time, right? Which is get on those committee meetings, start those PACs, start those nonprofits, get those grants, get those businesses. They don't really talk to us about businesses. They don't talk to us about homes. They talk to you about affordable housing, but that's not wealth. The housing brings wealth. But it's like, I'm here in Hyde Park, and a neighborhood down like Bronzeville has a bunch of vacant lots. I was just at the budget meeting, and I asked them, why do we have so many vacant lots? This is the third largest city in the nation. And they gave me a bunch of excuses for why we have so many vacant lots. But I know why we have vacant lots. It's because oftentimes, a lot of these aldermen will not tell anybody when these vacant lots get down to $1. They tell their friends about when those vacant lots hit $1. And then they buy that vacant lot for $1, and then they do whatever they want with it. And that's one of the things the aldermen can tell you.
And see, this is why, as we talk about reparations, it's a process that has to go through the political process. It's a political process. Yeah. And as we fight for it, we don't know the political process.
Yeah.
then we can be it can be sabotaged. We can be misled,
Yeah.
which is a lot of
Hmm.
what's happening, what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
As you talk about what reparations is, and then even the lineage part of it, you
Yeah.
know, which is so important. And Arthur, I know you have talked about that numerous amount of times, of
Hmm.
lineage. And when you look at the government, how does that play into this situation of reparations?
Well, when it comes to how the government plays into it, it really boils down to the will of the community, and the way the will of the community, and also the way in which we are able to control our representatives. Right now, we have too many representatives that are supposed to be representing us, but the moment that they get voted into office, they're not representing us anymore. They're representing Latinos, Asians, Jews. I
And why
mean, you
is
name
that?
it.
Well, the party already selects these people. A lot of
Hmm.
people think,
Mhm.
I mean, look at Biden. Okay, he just got modern cooed right out of his own party. From what
Yep.
I've heard from various people, the Democratic Party in the state of Illinois has a lineup of people, and they just kind of like grin and bear it until they're selected, and then they're put in position. So the people think they're electing these people. They're not. They're not.
Mhm.
So basically they select these people, and then the media machine gets to work on the propaganda. Then the people pretty much kind of get in line. If you actually look at the stats, like the Democratic Party in many ways has completely purified itself. Even, if the party says go left, their constituents will go left. If they say go right, their constituents will go right. It doesn't even matter if they're religious. Their religious constituents will vote for something that goes completely against their convictions,
Yes.
because the party tells them to do something. So that is why you keep getting these Democrats. Like I remember one Democrat literally told another woman, "You vote one of us out, another one will come right in and continue the policies of illegal aliens coming into this country and coming into this city, and just basically getting whatever they need from the government." Okay, and that's because and this was like a year and a half when we had like that town hall over in a church. And I thought, and that's actually what prompted me to get involved in politics, because I saw how frustrated those people were. Those people had did everything the Democratic Party had told them to do. They came out, and this was an older woman. So she came out and voted and did everything she had to do. And what did the Democratic Party do? They pretty much stabbed her in the back. And sadly, I hate to say this, but people get the government they deserve. Okay, that's from Benjamin Franklin. And it's like, if you're not taking at least 15 minutes out of your day to read the Democratic Party platform, to know who your alderman is, to know who your committee man is, to know, like, basically at least the PACs that are in your state that are moving and shaping policies, that is, reallocating resources and changing systems. Well, then and you don't really care about a Black agenda, then the system will pick these people for you. Like, people don't
Yeah.
understand civics in that the country is not set up for these massive revolutions. Okay, it's set up for a slow drip, right? So you have to consistently vote something in over a period of time. And so, like, I think it's like the bad congressmen, women, and the bad, public servants, coupled with the fact that they don't really know anything about civics, coupled with the fact that they don't really have an agenda, that basically makes it so that Black people don't really want to vote. I mean, how can you vote for an alderman, if you don't even know what you want? I've asked Black
Hmm.
people, like, what do you want?
Yeah.
And they literally have told me, I don't know. Well, if you don't
That
know,
that
well
is a
then,
big problem.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
yeah, like they
That
don't
is
even
a
know what
big
they want.
problem.
I'm like,
Right.
well, what do you want? Do you want a job? Do you want your own business? Do you want to be, well, like, what do you want? And I remember one of the guys I've known since college said, I don't know what I want. So if you don't know what you want, you don't know what to look for in an alderman. You don't know what to look for in a congressman. You don't know basic civics. You don't know how to meet these people and then leverage what you have, because congressmen, aldermen, committeemen, they only care about two things: money and votes. Money because the elections are very expensive, and votes. So if you have a motivated, not just you being a voter doesn't mean anything. Being a motivated voter with wind behind your back, that you can actually throw them out because all they really want is power, and they'll do the bare minimum to keep it. Uh, then they don't really care about you. So, and money doesn't really beat votes like that. They can kind of communicate to certain people who are motivated to vote based off that, what they've been communicated, okay, what they've been told. So it's like people have to understand basic civics, and one of the things we can do as aldermen, committeemen, congressmen, is tell the people. But there are other ways I think that we can get the message out too. Like, I'm trying to start a publishing house. I want to write a book that's basically like, I don't know, working title is like a politics 102, because there are people who are in politics and they don't even know basics of government. They don't even know anything. Like,
They're not reading those bills and
yeah, like some of the
No,
reparationists.
they just signing
a
them.
lot of a
Yeah,
lot of legislators don't even know how to write bills.
yeah, like a lot of reparationists I've talked to, they don't even know really how to do things. Like, I mean, you're in politics, but you don't know about the committee man, right? And that's a powerful position, because you slate the candidate. Okay, there was this one man in Tennessee. He had been a good Democrat for years, but because he was pro-life, they slated him right off that ballot. He had to run as an independent, and he lost. So, and there was actually a Republican, a black man. He's apparently, I just found this out. Like, he was a black man in Arizona, and he's pro-Trump, and he was getting a lot of pro-MAGA people into those committee mans, and the executive board of the committees called him in and basically threw him out, because they knew how powerful, what he was doing, and so they threw him out. But at least he got to do what he did, right? And so it's like, even though he's been thrown out, he put in like over 300 people or something like that. So it's like, it's a done deal, with Arizona, for quite some time, probably, unless they all like kind of purge them or something like that. But it's like, yeah. So it's like, we need to know that
And
I think a lot of progressive have actually gotten to the committee man, because every time you come out, a new Democrat comes out, they're always a progressive in the Democratic Party, and oftentimes, believe it or not, they actually don't want a big turnout, because people who go on the committees, people who donate to candidates, people who vote in primaries are actually on the extreme, and so the extreme people are the ones that slate them. They're the people that donate to them, and they're the people that vote them in the primaries. And then when you get to the main election, you as a common person are now voting against the lesser of two evils, and the House always wins. You know what I mean? It's like, you always get a progressive, no matter what you do.
Right,
And that's because
right.
we're not like I said, we always come at the end, or we come at the beginning, but we're not in the middle, where we're shaping and molding policy. And they want that for a reason. They want only certain groups of people shaping and molding, changing systems, reallocating resources, and stuff like that. And so I think, one of the things what I can do is basically start a publishing house, write some books, and kind of like, from a reparationist perspective, and kind of tell people, this is how we do things. Okay, this is how we can get this done. This is what a Black agenda would somewhat look like, and then kind of move on from there, because I think we need to get on one page, at least a
Mhm.
general page, and then kind of move from there. Just like at the party, Illinois Republicans have a party platform, a state party platform, and it's generalizations of what the party is for. They can't always resolve everything, because we're a very diverse state, but they resolve some things, and then they move from there. And I think that's one thing that we should do, maybe like a Congress or something like that, where we all come together. Maybe there can be like some sort of threshold, like, hey, you have to have a nonprofit, you have to have a PAC, you have to have a political arm or something like that, in order to basically kind of join the Congress. We come together, we make a general resolution, and then we kind of move on from there. And I don't know if we'll be able to do it nationwide, but we should definitely start in our own state.
Well, this
Well,
this
that's something that needs to be done even within the reparations question,
absolutely.
because when you go across the board, you got people out there that are quite confused about what reparations should look like, what level it should start, how it should be implemented, whether there should be a bureau or not. It's just all over the place. And
Well,
then you got some,
let me give you an example here, Arthur. I was just
yeah,
reading. Okay, NAACP. What are the components of reparations? National apology, rights to cannabis industry, financial payment, social service benefits, land grants. Then you go to another group, cessation assurance, non-repetition, restitution, repatriation, compensation, satisfaction, rehabilitation. This is just two that I've read in terms of
hmm
what people say. And when they had that forum that Saturday, they were going to talk about, at least what I read, they were going to talk about preserving Black neighborhoods, building and developing vocational centers, ensuring proper economic representation, and creating and enforcing the Illinois Slavery Disclosure Bill. And this speaks to just what you're talking about, and how
hmm
scattered we are all over the place in terms of what we think reparations should look like.
hmm
Yeah, I
and
agree.
so, and that confusion has slowed down a lot of things. And that confusion is also why groups like in Cobra continue to dominate the question when it comes to contact with legislators. So I concur with the young lady's suspicions that they are just there to keep everything disrupted, because the Democratic Party really does not want reparations to be done. And if by some fluke it does get done, they want it to be in the most watered down, most inoffensive to white America form that they could possibly do, and then call that a wrap.
Well, that's because, well, there are political parties basically just want to win. And it's not a winning strategy. So they're gonna, and they won't just do that with us. If you look at some of the progressives, they'll tell you that the Democratic Party is not left. And what they really mean is just it's not socialist, it's not communist. And every time
Hmm
they kind of get close to like shaping and molding policy, the Democratic Party kind of grabs them by the neck and throws them out. So they
hmm
do that with a lot of groups that have these really radical agendas because they can't really get to the common man with these types of agendas. So basically, these groups, both groups, if they find out that you're a firebrand, they will basically cleave you from the herd and watch you die. They will even get
hmm
your colleagues to help you throw you out. Again, Joe Biden. Look at AOC. Okay, she chose her career as opposed to furthering the squad and their goals,
Right.
and she just lost the was it the Democratic Socialist endorsement because she hasn't been
Yep.
doing anything for the Democratic Socialists, and so
Right.
and she chose her career, and many of the people of the squad chose their career. Look at Bowman. He decided to be more of a statesman, right, and do what he thought was in his conscience was right. And he they did anybody help him? Not really. They
No.
all knew what was happening, and they didn't really help him. And he basically got the axe. They heaved him out right on his neck. It was a wrap for the guy. So it's like they don't like firebrands. They don't like radical ideas, which is why it's like it has to be like a slow burn. If you want that, you have to vote it in and vote it in consistently. Um, I will say, I think in a crazy way, and I could be wrong 20 years down the line, but I actually think you have a better chance on a federal level with the Republicans. The reason why I say this is because they're actually better at that, actually. A political science guy, there was actually a book, I forget the author, but the book is called Politics is for Power, and it was talking about political hobbyism. And it helped me a lot to see what's the difference between being a political amateur and being a political professional, right? And so he actually did some research and found that the Republicans were actually better on a federal level pushing policy. And if you look at the Republicans, they're a lot more homogenous, okay? And so you don't have to fight through, feminists, blue haired, weirdos, no offense to those people, but it's like you have to fight through the big tent. You got to fight through Hispanics, Asians, feminists, LGBT, boulets. You got to fight against everybody. Whereas with the Republicans, their largest voting bloc is like the evangelicals. Now, granted, they're racist, but they're no less racist than these other people on the left. They don't want our reparations any more than the people on the right do. So it's like at least you're
Right.
dealing with you're dealing with like really one group of people. Okay, and it's like despite what the crackpots on the right that are good for TV, they don't really have win like that. They really don't. Um, they're just a fringe group. So
So,
that's what I think personally.
so how do you think, this issue of immigration? This is another question I wanted to ask before we end our show tonight. How do you think this issue of immigration is impacting reparations or may impact reparations?
I'm not clear on how. I know it's connected in some kind of way. Um, I do know that the governmental emphasis right now is on these immigrants and getting them situated, possibly giving them amnesty, fast tracking them to voting level citizenship. Um, but if there's an increase in Hispanic legislators, which I anticipate will happen, that will greatly affect whether or not we get reparations. Because the majority of Latinos out there, and especially the people, those Latinos that are in power, do not want reparations to happen for Black people here in America.
Hmm. What do you think
Um,
about that, Adeline?
I think I think I think we're in trouble if Kamala Harris wins. I'm gonna be honest. They will absolutely give them amnesty. They will basically, and what that will actually do is actually lower the wage floor.
Hmm.
And I think everybody will actually be poor because of it. That's what I think illegal aliens and what will do to the country. I think a lot, unbeknownst to a lot of Black people, I think the Democratic Party are actually going to move from race to class, and basically us trying to get our voices heard will be a lot harder to do because you have a new group of people in the country that don't understand this country, and they're not going to try to hear it. They're going to try to remake the country in their own image. And I think it will be a new challenge if we don't move to lineage base. Okay. um I think it will also, I basically, that's how I kind of see it. I think it will just add a new layer of challenges. I think a lot of Black people are going to have to kind of give up on the Democratic Party. I know people don't want to hear this, but I mean, how many times, I mean, just even the past 4 years alone, they've been caught in so many weird lies. They don't seem to care about Black Americans at all. I really do think they're getting ready to kind of throw us out. Um, and kind of use and kind of and I think once they throw us out because they'll have a new base, um I think a lot of Black people will pretty much have no choice but to go over to the Republican Party. I think if the Republican Party was smart, they would like kind of rebrand to like a party where old stock Americans would probably feel safe and can come into their party and expand the tent, because I think a lot of evangelicals, white people in general, are just kind of like in denial with their numbers. Like they say it's even worse. Like, okay, so apparently white people have not really been having any kids, and they have not been having any children since like for like 50 years. Um, and they say that the lack of children that white people have had is even worse than people think. Okay, which is why they're kind of opening up the borders and stuff like that. And I think they need to expand the tent and quick, um if they want to win this and kind of save the entire country, because even Joe Biden's on record saying that the country is doomed. Listen, that's what he said. He
Hmm.
actually said the country was doomed. and it's an elite video that he had with civil rights leaders just as he was getting ready to go into office. He said the country was doomed because of the dwindling white population and Black Americans. He blamed Black Americans because we keep voting for his party. And basically I feel like eventually we'll be thrown out. That's what I think, because they're going to get amnesty. They're going to be the new citizens. That's why they have that office of new Americans. We're going to be thrown out of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party will move from race to class. We're going to have an even harder time in the Democratic Party. We will have to accept the fact that we are no longer the Democratic Party's um, main girl. I think either we're going to be foolish and stay politically homeless because we don't know civics, right? And or we can make a power move over to the Republican Party where they desperately need people in order to get power, because that's all politicians care about. They just care about power. And if we move over there, we can continue on the fight for reparations. But that's only if we're not going to be goofy and just not understand that these politicians are not our family. Kamala Harris is not your sister. She's just a tool, okay, to change systems and reallocate resources. That's it. So that's what I think. It can be hard depending on how we, as an electorate, react to this. Okay, because if Kamala Harris comes in, she said even years ago that immigrants are going to be giving us jobs.
Mhm.
She said this years ago. So it's like we can be smart, no matter what happens. Look at other groups. They don't care who comes into this country and who comes out of this country, right? They're organized, they're unified, they have an agenda, and they stick to it. Okay,
Mhm.
we can panic, or we can, what's that saying? We can barbecue or mildew.
Mhm.
Either way, I will be pushing for reparations, no matter who wins. So
You go. Well, Arthur, you are with the Freedmen Group and in Chicago, Freedmen Chicago,
Mhm.
and I know you've
Yeah.
been out here fighting for reparations for a long time. You've been very involved, and this is, both of you are giving some very profound information here. Actually, as I'm sitting here listening to Adeline talk, I'm like, in the future, there will be no we. It'll be like
Uh,
who is we? When we
yeah,
right.
say Black people, because we're on all these different pages.
yeah.
But what is the Freedmen Group of Chicago? Where they going with this right now?
Well, we are right now involved with efforts to get uh, interest in reparations back up to the high levels that it was about 4 years ago. And we just, I think we recently opened our office over at 1865 East 71st Street for that purpose. And there's a lot of new things that we're working on right now. We're working on a new website, and also we will be having regular presentations, more likely starting next month, back again. So, there's some other things too. Marlon couldn't get on for whatever reason, but
Oh,
he has
right.
more
No, you
details
didn't.
about that.
Mm-hmm. So, what is the position in terms of the scope of reparations of the Freedmen Group, so people understand? Because
Lineage based, lineage based only, um, federal first, primarily cash, along with particular policies, protections, and set aside only for American, for the descendants of American freed. So that's basically in a nutshell. It's not very complicated.
hmm and so, what's happening now? Would you say at the federal level? We know Sheila Jackson Lee have been working on reparations for how long? 40 years.
She's
uh,
been working on keeping reparations from happening.
mm,
That's what
Yeah.
she's been
Yep.
working on. She's been working on keeping reparations from happening. She hasn't been working on reparations.
Yeah.
HR
Yeah.
40 is one of the worst bills ever written. We don't deserve that. So I'm glad right now, nobody's carrying it right now.
What
If we
was,
need a new bill,
can you just tell us briefly what was wrong with that? What was a few things that was wrong with that bill?
that is not. First of all, one of the things that is it's not lineage based. That's
Hmm.
one thing. Number two, one major things that's really bad about the bill is that there's provisions in the bill that enable them to carry on their meetings and deliberations in secret. And then what would happen is that we get a finished product whenever they finish. Um, and one of the goals within HR 40 is not to give us money. It's actually about pouring money into a large nonprofit structure that will be created by Narcan and Cobra, in which they would control all reparations resources. The average freedman in the street would not see a dime of their reparation. It's terrible.
Wow.
Well, I will say this from what I've heard, the way the country's set up, it has to kind of go into like a nonprofit or something like that. But every black person has a social security number. Okay. So we could all literally set something up, but they're not going to do that anyway. So it's like, that's kind of, which is
No, it
why it's
doesn't
like,
have to go
yeah.
into a nonprofit. It go to a bureau, just like the Indians. Matter of fact, I'll give you them for instance. My son and his wife, they own real estate. They have some real estate on the north side. One of their tenants is an actual Native American. This young lady gets a check directly from the United States Treasury of $7,000, no taxes taken out
Wow.
every month. Okay? No,
Yeah.
you don't need no nonprofits. We get
Okay.
it from a bureau just like everybody else does.
Okay. All right. Didn't know that. They make it seem like they don't get a check, but okay.
Yeah, no, they do it. It's the thing is that it's not a day. Each tribe, each different Indian tribe has a different reparational arrangement with the federal government according to what their particular needs are.
Gotcha.
It's not it's not unified in that sense, but all of
Hmm.
these tribes are dealt with the Department with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they have separate offices within that bureau dealing with specific tribes.
I
That's how they
see.
have it set up. Yeah,
I see. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
That's good to know.
So how
yeah.
would that work for us?
Same thing, Denise. I mean, you
And-
don't need no nonprofit outside the government. All of the reparations resources will go through the Bureau of Freedmen Affairs, and you would
Mm-hmm.
get your check from the Treasury just like everybody else does.
Mm.
We don't have to do anything any different. That's what confuses me about this. Reparations for us is no different from anybody else's. Nothing special. It's money, tax exemptions, set asides, special laws, and special protections. No different from anybody else's stuff. So why are you trying to complicate it for us?
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Well, this sounds like we have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
Um, on and definitely what you're doing, Adeline, on the civic side is
Yes.
really, really important. And the work you're doing with the Freedmen, Chicago, pushing legislation and making sure
Mhm.
that this whole reparations piece is done the way it's supposed to be done.
Yes. So right
Yeah.
now I'm with the Southside Republicans. I just want to kind of give them a plug in. They're
Okay.
actually teaching me civics. They teach civics every Tuesday. So if you look up Southside Republicans, they're off of Pulaski, and it's being ran
Okay.
by Mr. Devin Jones. He is a committee
Okay.
man for the Republicans. He's a
Okay.
radical Republican, and he's also a delegate for the Republicans. And he recently went to the Illinois State Convention, Republican Convention, to actually fight on the behalf of reparations. He's also friends with Mr. Fields, who is also a committee man. But you need at least 500 votes in order to go and be a delegate. and he didn't get enough. He didn't get, Mr. Fields didn't get 500 votes, but Mr. Jones did, and so he was able to like fight on behalf of reparations. He was the only person there really fighting for reparations,
Hmm.
and like I said, he does civic lessons every Tuesday. He also does gun safety. We have been getting out the flyers for a Mystic Frederick Walls, and he's actually a reverend, and he's fighting to represent um, Chicago. So basically, if you guys look up Frederick Walls, you should be able to find some information about him. I believe he's running for, it's either the 18th, I think it's like the 18th ward. So yeah, definitely look into Mr. Frederick Walls.
So here's a question I have. I've gone to, different forums, and I've gone to some Republican forums as well. And I have asked the question about reparations. And the response that I've gotten consistently is, oh, yeah, we support reparations, but no money.
Well,
That's not reparation.
Yeah.
we're radical Republicans,
Hmm.
as in we are in the spirit of the actual Republicans that passed the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. So we really don't have much to kind of do with with the state or even the National Republican Party. But like I said, despite that, we already have two committeemen uh, in Chicago that are actually pro reparations. I believe there's even a
Mhm.
third one. I think his name is Paul McKinney. He's in here in Hyde Park. I don't believe he'll run for another term. If so, then I could very possibly run and actually be the third, radical Republican, because I don't believe I'm no way he is with the Republicans, but yeah, so basically we would still have a third person in the Republican Party that's actually running like on reparations. So I don't know how many Democrats are really kind of running on cash payments for reparations. But yeah, I definitely plan on being quite active if I do become a committee man. And yeah,
Well, I definitely would like to see reparations in the conversation with this, election coming up. I'd like to see that if there's a debate. I'd like to see the question on the table. I already know in the past, both Biden and Kamala Harris have not been very much supportive of reparations. The question was actually presented to Biden, and
yeah.
his response was,
Yeah, I mean, the
no,
guy is a Dixiecrat. He's obviously a
no.
segregationist.
Hmm.
So he's not going to support it, and neither will Kamala Harris. I
Yep,
understand.
she didn't speak positively of it either.
Yeah, she's from an
Yeah.
Indian caste that is actually the oppressive.
Yeah,
Like they're actually the oppressor class, from what I've heard.
Mm.
right.
And she has no lineage in this country, so she's really not gonna. But even then, obviously, even if you're not, black or have lineage in this country, it just really is just the right thing to do. And if you look at her policies, things that she's done, things she said, I don't think the truth is in her. So I don't think that, like I said,
I think we're losing you off the screen.
I think we'll need to, like, as Black Americans on the left and on the right, kind of meet in the middle and push for reparations. That's what I think. I'm not against anybody on the left or on the right, as long as we're all pushing towards that one goal. That's all that really matters.
Right. And I like
Right.
that message that came out at the meeting with one of the groups. Um, no reparations, no vote.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have to show them that we're serious, and we
Right.
have to donate to those who are running on a reparations can platform. They notice that stuff when you vote for them, when you donate to them, when you're on that committee, and you're basically asking questions about reparations. When you go to those town halls and you're asking them questions about reparations, you have to kind of show them, hey, this is a movement that's building. They look at movements when they grow. They don't really care when movements are starting to atrophy and stuff like that. They need to see it grow and grow consistently. So
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Closing comments from you, Mr. Ward.
Closing comments. Okay.
Yes.
Any
Closing
any
comments.
anytime anybody says that they're for reparations for black people but no money, it's really a nice way of saying no money for you niggas. Okay. So that's how I look at that. So
Okay.
but at the same time, I think all the groups all the individual groups that are for reparations. We need to set aside differences and have some kind of unified agenda, because the thing is not about your particular organization, it's about getting reparations done.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank both of you for not only showing up tonight, Arthur and
Hmm.
Adeline, but I want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I think it's very
Oh,
important. And we were both very impressed with you and your sincerity at that meeting, Adeline. And so
Oh,
I
thank
know
you.
we're going to be hearing more from you, and I do wish you much success.
Thank you.
But we have to, this is something we have to stay on top of, and that is reparations. And
Yes.
so I
well,
want to thank,
Denise, make sure that she gets my information.
I
Yes,
sure will.
please. Please.
I
Mr.
sure will
Devin
for
Jones
you
would like to
too,
get in contact with
connect.
you,
That's right,
Mr.
because we
Ward.
do have to work
Oh,
together.
okay.
It was actually, if I would have made a comment at that forum, it would have been about how can we come together and how can we
Hmm.
work together. That's very important because we're too all over the place. And like you say, this is like a division that is put there to as a distraction
Yeah.
and to keep us from
Right,
getting where we're going. So,
right.
family, thank you for coming tonight. Please go to rrgbc.org and subscribe so you can win our book of the month. And also, you can make a donation to our organization. And you can watch this podcast and many of the other podcasts that we have done over again. So, I want to thank you again for coming, and I want everybody to stay safe and have a good night.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.